Hello and welcome to this list of 10 great Bollywood rom-coms. Who doesn't love a great rom-com? Well, except for a lot of men for some reason. Don't ask me, I love them. I mean, romance and comedy, what more could you want? Just ask Shakespeare. But what I don't understand is why people keep watching tired, cliche, dull, and almost deliberately bad streaming rom-coms when there's this treasure trove of amazing rom-coms out there from one of India's largest films industries, namely Bollywood. They're long, they're colorful, they have delightful song and dance sequences, and they're so worth checking out. That's why I compiled a list of 10 of my favorites. It's not any kind of definitive list, nor is it even ranked, because I simply haven't seen enough movies to actually do that. Instead, it's just a teaser of 10 great movies out there that could help you start discovering these, or perhaps dip your toes back in. So here you go, 10 great Bollywood rom-coms. At number 10, we have Meta Brother Ki Dalhan. And you'll have to excuse my pronunciation on all of these. Sorry for butchering your language. But in any case, this is a delightful rom-com starring Imran Khan as the sweet, loving brother to Ali Zafar. Now, he's trying to find the perfect bride for his brother. There's just one complication when he actually finds one. He falls in love with her, that being Katrina Kaif's Dimple, the craziest, wackiest girl he's ever met. There's so much to love about this movie. Imran Khan played in a number of rom-coms in the early 2000s and seems to have sort of disappeared since, but I rather appreciate at least the characters he plays in his movies because they're usually unfailingly sweet and loving boys. And in this movie as well, he's really dominated by Katrina Kaif, who plays this wild rocker chick with a sort of coquettish energy. I imagine it to be many people's sexual awakening when they first saw it back in India. Well, in this movie, he gives her space to be her wild self, and he appreciates her for who she is, which I appreciate so much. There are also many lovely song and dance sequences, including the title track, but also a great number called Madhubala in reference to the great old Bollywood actress. There are also some things absent from this movie, but they only really make it better. Namely, there's not really a villain. In fact, there aren't really complications of any kind. It's more of a hangout movie, really. What happens is the two lovers have this plan to get Ali Zafar back with his ex-girlfriend. So they hatch a scheme and they execute it. Now, normally what would happen is people would find out and they'd have to apologize. You know, the whole liar revealed thing, which is one of the worst tire tropes there is. Well, in this movie, they don't do that. They have a scheme, they execute it, and it works, and everybody is happy. It's glorious. It's such a fun movie for it. One of the great hangout rom-com movies. Colorful and very funny to boot. Definitely one of the great rom-coms to check out. Meta Brother Ki Dalhan. At number 9, I've put Muja Friendship Karoge. Yeah, sorry for this pronunciation. Too. It's a movie starring only debutantes because it was one of the first movies made under the Y Films banner, which is part of Yash Raj Films, one of the largest film studios in modern Bollywood. Now, this subsidiary was supposed to make movies only intended for teenagers. It just didn't last very long, but at least we got this incredibly fun movie out of it, which has no reason to be as good as it is. The plot is exactly the sort of silly nonsense that only a 2000 rom-com could come up with. There are two classmates out there who truly despise each other. They cannot stand each other, but somehow they end up chatting online, both pretending to be different people, and they fall in love over chats, not knowing that it's actually their sworn enemy that they're talking to. Of course, eventually everything has to be revealed and drama ensues. Only a rom-com like this could make a plot like that work. It's a return to an easier time, a different era where everything seemed simpler. In fact, it's a sort of Facebook knockoff in its early days that they use. And it's just so charming and interesting. I'm not as big of a fan of the male lead in this because the script kind of lets him down. He kind of acts like an ass, or at least a little bit of a prick in this movie. but his co-star is absolutely fantastic, and it's still a really lovely movie, and even the man is redeemed in the end by his charming proposal, which of course comes, as we all understand, in a movie like this. But yes, the whole movie, you are definitely cheering for them to get together, so check out this fun movie, which really has no reason to be as good as it is, and is one of the great movies made under the short-lived Y Films banner. At number 8, I've put Kuch Kuch Hout Hai, which is the first appearance on this list of the legend Shah Rukh Khan. Now, Shah Rukh Khan might be the biggest film star on earth, which is always kind of surprising to people from my country that I speak with. But yeah, it's not Tom Cruise, it's not Brad Pitt. If you count the sheer number of fans and the mass of his following and the sheer hype behind him, it might just be Shah Rukh Khan. He really defined love for a generation of actresses, because even though he started off playing a villain, he eventually moved to romantic roles and starred in many romantic movies and became the ultimate heartthrob. So, I'm not making up either that he defined love for a generation of women. I read that in the book Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh, India's Lonely Young Women and the Search for Intimacy and Independence, which is a fantastic book that follows the story of several different women from different economic and social classes who are united by their love for the actor Shah Rukh Khan. For instance, we follow a maid who asks for some time off earlier on Saturday so she can watch marathons of his movies on TV and be inspired by his gentleness and his charisma. India has its problems. According to this book, 37% of all women who die by suicide are from India. And according to the WHO, Indians are the most depressed people in the world. In that context, it starts to make sense that they love these kind of charming, feel-good rom-com movies. And Shah Rukh Khan really came to represent to them the power of love and romance, the power of somebody who really sees women, who actually looks at them and understands them and is there for them. In the past two movies in this list, it's surely the women who dominated. Katrina Kaif was obviously the dominant force of Mera Brother Ki Dilhan, and Saba Azad really stole the show and music friendship karaoke. But in this movie, finally the actresses, and great actresses they are, Rani Mukherjee and Kajol, find a leading man who is worthy of them in the form of Shah Rukh Khan. The plot of this movie is ridiculous in a way that only these movies could pull off, but you kind of have to get the feminism to leave your body for a bit, as somebody says on Letterboxd. You've got Shah Rukh Khan in college, despite being way too old for it, by the way, and there he has this friend/enemy played by Kajol. They're great friends, they also bicker a lot, but there's obvious chemistry between them. However, a new girl arrives played by Rani Mukherjee, who is only 17 at the time of filming, and Shah Rukh Khan falls in love with her and they marry and Kajol leaves the scene. However, Mukherjee passes away after having a daughter with Shah Rukh Khan, and in her last letter to her daughter, Rani Mukherjee asks her daughter to reunite Shah Rukh Khan with Kajol, the lover he was really meant to be with, at least now that she's gone. Yeah, in other words, Shah Rukh Khan is such a great lover, he gets two different women. He gets both of them in this movie. Make it make sense. Actually, when you think about the plot for even a second, it makes no sense at all. What was her plan if she was already married? Well, in any case, there's more that's ridiculous about this movie, like Rani Mukherjee playing a mother at 17 years old, this ludicrous wig that Kajol is wearing. Everybody's dressed like it's damn Sesame Street. I have no idea what's happening here. There's also no college on earth that is even remotely like the college portrayed here. But man, if it isn't fun, if it isn't a good time, if it doesn't have legendary songs and color and hope and a sheer sense of fun and melodrama that actually works, it's just a fantastic flick. And this is the reunion of Kajol and Shah Rukh Khan as lovers, and man, they are amazing. The electricity between them is there without question. It's so powerful. It has to be seen to be believed. It's one of those movies you can come back to over and over and over again. And when I try and recommend a Bollywood movie to newcomers, this is often what I turn to. And it's been very successful so far, for good reason. It's a stone cold classic. At number 7, we have Ye Jawani Hai Dewani, and this is the Bollywood rom-com reinvented for a new generation, being the latest movie on this list. It was made in 2013. It stars Ranbir Kapoor, but he's really outdone once again by his co-star Deepika Padukone, who is just extraordinary in this film, one of her best performances, so charming and lovely. It stars four ex-classmates who go on a trip together, and there Ranbir Kapoor meets Deepika Padukone's bunny. The two have obvious chemistry, however, they drift apart. But years later, he meets her again, and they've both changed a lot, but they try to resume their romance once more. What I especially love about this movie is the famous song and dance sequences, which are apparently etched into the minds of an entire generation of people in India. I'm especially fond of Balam Pichi Kari, which is set during the Holi Festival. Man, the colors. You wonder where these colors are in Hollywood movies. Yeah, thanks for another gray sludge, Christopher Nolan. No, no, no. Check this out if you want to see some actual color in your movies. At number 6, Shah Rukh Khan returns in Kal Ho Na Ho from 2003. But this movie also stars Preeti Zinta, one of my very favorite actresses. She was small in stature and could play the typical cutesy rom-com girl, but in actuality she was a consummate professional who often chose slightly more difficult or interesting roles with an edge, just like she does here, because here she also plays a professional that does have a bit of that edge instead of being the normal generic rom-com protagonist. She imbues real life into her roles, and she certainly does so here. Now, she has a family living in New York where the movie is set, and this family prays for someone to help them with their problems. And the answer to their prayers is Shah Rukh Khan, who basically plays a savior in this movie. I mean, it's no surprise that in India they tend to call their actors heroes instead of just protagonists. Well, he helps Naina find love and also helps Saif Ali Khan, who plays a secondary male character, who also needs help in finding love. And that's where the real comedy lies, because Shah Rukh Khan helps him out. And there's some hilarious scenes of Saif Ali Khan struggling to follow his advice. But eventually he does so successfully. There are also sadder parts of this movie that darken it with melodrama of a very effective and moving kind. But you have to find that out for yourself if you haven't seen it yet. I've listened to the director's commentary, not on this disc, but on the DVD actually. And what's interesting to find out there is how much of it was improvised by the actors. But it makes sense. There is this palpable sense of energy and fun and optimism, and indeed improvisational comedic energy. And it also makes this another Stone Cold Shah Rukh Khan classic that has to be seen. Yes, cheesy, yes, corny, but oh so lovely. Check it out if you have the time. At number 5, I've put Job We Met, by many considered the greatest movie by the director of modern romance, Imtiaz Ali. Job We Met again has the woman dominating as Kareena Kapoor plays Geet, a role that was simply meant for that actress, because she has this wild personality, and certainly Geet does as well. She is carefree, she is wild, she has this energy, she keeps bantering, she won't shut up, and that annoys Aditya, played by Shahid Kapoor, who is quiet and even to the point of being a reclusive. However, they find each other and their chemistry is off the charts. It's so believable. You spend the entire movie hoping that these two will end up together. Shahid Kapoor is another interesting story because he actually started out as a background dancer until moving up to be an actor and finally leading man. Only in Bollywood could that happen. But hey, the dance sequences in this movie are great, as are all the songs, as is its color and sense of joy and hopefulness. And it's just such a charming and fun movie. So check it out if you have the chance. It's the masterpiece of one of India's greatest living commercial directors. At number 4, I have Rapne Bala Di Jodi, a film with a plot so ludicrous that some people still struggle to buy into it, but I really like this movie. you've got Shah Rukh Khan joined by newcomer Anushka Sharma in her very first film role. And what a find she was for this movie, because she is angelic. Yet she has real character as well, imbues her character with a sense of life indeed. But it's Shah Rukh Khan who really steals the show here in this absolutely silly plot. So let me try and get you to understand what's happening. Shah Rukh Khan plays a man who is in love with Anushka Sharma. Unfortunately, Anushka Sharma doesn't like him because he's an unkempt, untidy, quite bad-looking, timid company clerk. However, they marry because it's the dying wish of Anushka Sharma's mother after tragedy strikes her fiancé. Yeah, those kind of arrangements do happen in India, actually. Shah Rukh Khan obviously wants his wife to be in love with him, who wouldn't, so he hatches this scheme. What he's going to do is join her in dancing, something she loves. He's going to learn how to dance, and that way he'll romance her. And also, he's going to make himself look like the kind of cool guy that she'd want to be with. Luckily, his best friend is a hairstylist and helps him out to look differently. However, he goes to this dance class, and there she is. But she doesn't recognize him, mostly because he also acts so differently from what he usually does. And he looks different. It's, of course, a little bit silly that she wouldn't recognize her own husband, but you have to go with it for this plot to work. Basically, Shah Rukh Khan is playing a sort of parody of the charmer he usually plays. The guy he's pretending to be is really trying so hard to be charming and sexy, doesn't quite pull it off. But still, Anushka Sharma falls for him, and so she kind of cheats on her husband with her husband pretending to be someone else, if you catch my drift. Only Bollywood could come up with a plot like that. Shah Rukh Khan is just hilarious playing this wannabe charmer. He has this catchphrase, hum hain rahi PRK, fir melenge chalte chalte, or something like that. Sorry again for butchering your language. Which translates loosely to "we are traveling the love lane, down the road we'll meet again." Certainly one I've incorporated in my life. No, not really. But in any case, it's such a fun movie. I love how central dance is in so many Bollywood movies. It's surely one of the greatest art and inherently quite romantic. So making it a centerpiece here was such a smart choice. There is great comedy deriving from the ludicrous situation. And in general, I really don't understand why this movie has any haters. I'm certainly not one of them. I think it's hilarious, I think it's fun, I think it's charming, and I would watch it any time. In fact, when I briefly had a roommate, because I let my best friend sleep here for a bit while he's looking for another place to live, the very first night together, we watched this movie. And hey, we didn't regret it, so I hope you won't either. At number 3, Imran Khan returns in Jaane 2, Ya Jaane Na, another excellent team rom-com, one of the great friends to lovers rom-coms, where everybody surrounding the two leads knows they're meant to be with each other, but they themselves don't see it yet. In fact, they're trying to help each other find other dates, but of course they get very jealous in the process. It's a formulaic plot, but just executed so well, full of color and liveliness, and also a great cast of supporting characters and a real sense of camaraderie. It also feels very realistic for high schools, unlike the colleges in Shah Rukh Khan movies. At the same time, there is something so deeply heartfelt about the central romance, and it's pushed to ridiculous ends because this movie has to be seen for the final airport scene alone. It's completely ridiculous, and only Jim Carrey actually took it further. The director of this movie, and I listened to his commentary track as well, is still writing a lot of dialogue for modern Bollywood blockbusters, and you can tell why, because the dialogue is very sharp. And here again, I appreciate Imran Khan just playing such a sweet, nice boy, not one of those irritating stalkers who basically harasses the girl to be with him, as is so often the case in these movies. So check it out if you want to see something that's simply sweet and charming. At number 2, I have Band Baja Barat, and guys, I simply adore this movie. I love it. There's so much to adore about it. For one thing, it's the screen debut of Ranveer Singh, and it has to be one of the great debuts in cinema history because he simply explodes off the screen, together with his co-star Anushka Sharma, who we of course saw making her debut in Rab Ne Bana Di Jodi. In the plot of this movie, Ranveer Singh falls in love with her based on seeing her at a wedding she organized. He films her there and then makes a personalized burned DVD of it of her dancing at the wedding and gives it to her. She rejects even that, so you know she is a cold cat just focused on her business, which Ranveer Singh decides to join. But of course, they'll only be friends. Yeah, right. When the two finally kiss, it's electric. It's to me the greatest kiss scene in the history of cinema. It's so charming, so deeply moving, so real, so vulnerable. I'm going to admit to you guys, it actually made me cry the first time I saw it. And then I was in a play at the time where two characters had to kiss for the first time. And of course, doing it live in theater is a really vulnerable moment. So I sent the two directors of that play that scene and convinced them to base their version on that scene, which they agreed with because they agreed with me that that scene was so great. Now, a big deal is made in the book 50 Films That Changed Bollywood about the fact that after that kiss, the two characters actually have sex, and that was groundbreaking at the time. Physical intimacy wasn't that common in Bollywood movies. It took a long time for Shah Rukh Khan to actually kiss on screen, at least on the lips. Most of the time he just caresses and kissed someone's neck, and then they cut away from the more intimate parts. But here you actually see quite a lot. It's groundbreaking in other ways too, because it really reinvented the rom-com for a new generation, making it more physically intimate and just more hip and modern. The song and dance sequences are legendary and so fun, and I would recommend this movie to anybody, especially anybody who loves rom-coms and great kissing on screen. You will not be disappointed. At number 1, I had to put Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, known as DDLJ, one of the defining movies in the history of cinema. It came out in 1995 and was a smash hit. It is what made Shah Rukh Khan such a popular star, especially in the romance genre, and Kajol is his greatest on-screen pairing, according to many. The chemistry between the two is simply off the charts. It's electric, it's mesmerizing. I've never seen better. Indeed, sometimes you wonder if any couple in the history of cinema can compete. This movie also has the record for being screened the most and longest of any movie, because there's a theater in India that has played it since its debut in 1995, except for a brief break because of Corona. You can learn facts like this and more in this excellent book on DDLJ, which I read with a great deal of pleasure. Another interesting fact that you'll find, for instance, is that all this time the theater has had the same projectionist, so he has seen the film over 9,000 times. That has to be a record too. But you know, if I had to choose one movie to watch 9,000 times, DDLJ would be pretty near the top of the list. It's a masterpiece in its own way. The film follows the two lovers Simran and Raj, played respectively by Kajol and Shah Rukh Khan. And I have to admit, there are elements of this movie that haven't aged so well, because Shah Rukh Khan basically harasses Kajol until she submits to his love. It's a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest, and there are other scenes in this movie that make you less comfortable, but you have to see them as a product of their time. And luckily, the other movies on this list barely have the lead actors being a prick like that. You'll find it does happen quite often in different Bollywood rom-coms. But still, this movie is so amazing. The song and dance sequences alone, they were done by two different choreographers. One of them eventually left. The most famous ones are possibly by Farah Khan, who later would direct Shah Rukh Khan, of course, famously in Om Shanti Om, a number of other movies. It is just splendid from beginning to end. And you know what? Oftentimes people think that people only have affection for movies like this because of nostalgia. But that simply isn't the case. Look at me. I came to these movies in the mid-2000s. I had no idea who Shah Rukh Khan was, let alone Kajol, but I can appreciate them because, let me tell you, the magic of these movies is in the movies themselves, not just the circumstances. Even somebody not in any way related to them can enjoy them this much. And I really invite anybody who has never seen a Bollywood rom-com to check them out, because I'm sick and tired of hearing about the new awful streaming rom-com that is on Netflix or whatever. No, 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 no. These movies are where it's at. Check them out. You won't regret it.